Kim, and welcome everybody. This is unlike many of our other Saturday meetings and most of our other events. This one is a working event, and I wanted to thank everybody for taking the time to come and participate in this very important meeting that we're doing today. It's program planning for our local league here. As you all know, we already did program planning for the state. And so what we're doing today is very similar to that. I'm just gonna quickly share my screen and do a quick run through of what that looks like and how we're going to be proceeding today. So as I mentioned, every year we host a meeting similar to this, and it's in preparation for our annual meeting so that our members can proceed to vote and direct the attention of the league, the resources and the leadership of the league toward issues that they want to emphasize for the coming year. So we did this, as I said, for the state, and we're going to do it for ourselves today. So what we hope to achieve today by the end of this meeting is to choose the areas that our members want us to focus on, provide the names or gather the names of the individuals who want to help participate in those activities. And at the end of this meeting, we're going to review the second half of our list of positions. Anyone who was at this meeting last year remembers that we reviewed the first half of the positions that we hold locally here. And so we're going to take some time at the end of this meeting to do that with the second half. Kim will be walking you through that. It's going to be a little bit different this year than previous years because, for obvious reasons, we don't have the latitude of opportunities for feedback that we have had in years past when we did this in person. So we have devised what we believe is a very comprehensive way to get member feedback and provide opportunities for our members when we get to that point. And like I said, Kim will walk us all through that. So one of the reasons we do this and our opportunities to kind of get feedback from our members is so that we can direct our action. And these are some of the ways that we take action in the year. We will join or even build ourselves, create coalitions that give us an opportunity and leverage to advocate. We meet with and lobby elected officials. We testify before our legislative bodies here in San Diego, and we mobilize our members for activism as well. And having this meeting today and the one that we did last month regarding the state's issues for emphasis allows our league and our leagues to speak with one voice. So our advocacy results in outcomes. And I'm just trying to frame the purpose of this meeting so that everybody understands its importance and feels like they can get a sense of the ideas behind why we do this. And so here are some legit and tangible outcomes that we've gotten from our advocacy that we've done in this past year. So as you all may remember, we were partners in a coalition that was founded by the Racial Justice Coalition. We advocated our local elected officials to repeal and to uphold a chokehold ban, and that happened. We ended up winning that advocacy fight. And we also, as you know, we advocated for Measure B, as well as other measures, but this is just one of the big wins that I'd like to call our attention to. We were early adopters of the Measure B legislation that established the Commission on Police Practices, and we won that as well, and that measure passed. We also had some losses. Not everything we advocate for and get behind wins. We had advocated for election reform regarding ranked choice voting, and that didn't even make it on the ballot. So, our work here is important, and it gives us direction and gives us the foundation by which to advocate. And we do that advocacy on behalf of our members and our league, but it doesn't always result in big wins. But anyway, we do it because that's what we do, right? So I'm going to turn it over to Kim now, and she's going to take us through the rest of this important meeting.
Thank you, Lori. And what I'm going to cover was also covered at, I should say, the first 5 minutes of what I'm going to say is going to be the same as what we talked about at last month's state program planning meeting. So if you were there or if you totally understand how the system works, feel free to get up and get yourself another cup of coffee or whatever you want to do. I'm going to share my screen now and put the slides back up. So the questions to consider as we set priorities for our local league, we want to ask ourselves, what do members want? How could they get involved? What opportunities are there to leverage LWVSD's resources and membership? What other organizations are addressing the issue? We want to think about organizations we could partner with, or perhaps there are other organizations that are already doing a great job in a certain area and we don't need to jump in there. The DEI lens is a way of examining a program, a process, a product, or otherwise with how it will be perceived by a variety of communities, voices, and perspectives, and what barriers may exist that are preventing it from being fair or inclusive to everyone. So I think we already covered this. I'm going to skip this slide. Planning for impact. So we want to select issues that are not only important to us, but so if you look from the top, what comes out of the program planning convention today is the issues for education and advocacy. And the issues that can have the most impact are the ones that also are going to be coming up in the legislature this year, or are the things that we have volunteers who have the capacity to help with. So things we want to think about to plan for impact. And volunteers. We ask for members to volunteer because we are a grassroots organization and want our work to represent the interests of our members. The league is all of us, and the way we get things done is by volunteers from our league working together. Now, part of our core mission is the Making Democracy Work campaign. So we are already planning to work on these issues at a local, state, and national level. Those include redistricting and apportionment, election administration reforms, voter protection and mobilization, and money in politics. So you will not be seeing anything suggested in this department today because it's already our core mission. Now, on to the new items for today. So we have received 4 suggested issues for emphasis. And if the people that submitted them are here and are willing to talk about them, I'll be happy to pull up the pages that you submitted and we can just talk for a couple minutes about each one. And then I'll explain how we'll proceed from there. Ruth, are you willing to talk about the environmental justice one?
Sure. If you can pull it up so I can remember
Yes.
what I wrote. Okay, thanks, Kim. I really couldn't find League of Women Voters US position on this, but I do know that there are a lot of leagues in California who are working on environmental justice. And there are also a lot of groups in San Diego that are working on environmental justice, including the city council and the county. It's become a high priority issue. But I just feel like because of the might of the league and the sway of the league and the name of the league, that we should also join in this commitment to environmental justice and sustainability and lack of pollution in all communities across San Diego. So I think one of our main jobs in doing this would be to further educate ourselves, and then to make sure and observe that government does deliver where they promise they're going to deliver to further support these communities. Is Jane Andrews here?
Yeah, I was going to just jump in. Since I've been on the Sustainability Committee for the last few months, the topic of environmental justice, we really hear, you know, in these climate action plans, et cetera, but I feel like I need to know more of how to think about it. Do you think about it in budgetary terms? How does how do you get to policy from the theme of environmental justice? So I would see this as a direction to the sustainability committee to learn more about it first, and then to see, then to look at whether there's any addition or variation to our position statements. I don't think our position statements would go against this. I think it's more getting more subtle knowledge about what the policy making side of it. I mean, for example, what I've seen the supervisors work on their general plan revisions is, looking at maps, looking at how do funds get distributed. It kind of comes down to that level. And that it's a mix of environment and health is a big theme within it too. So I would see this as an opportunity to learn more, at least first.
Thanks, Jane. I was thinking perhaps maybe Ruth could give us a little bit more detail about that. Jane's point is that there is kind of a nuanced difference here between environmentalism and sustainability. But I think what Ruth is calling out is something a little bit different, which is environmental justice. And if you would just expound on the justice part, I think maybe that would answer some of Jane's questions, like the disproportionate impact on lower income communities when it comes to like pollution and pollution disposal, and like, for example, creation of and building of municipal or power plants, et cetera. Is that kind of what you're getting at here, Ruth, with the environmental justice focus?
Yeah, Lori, exactly. I mean, like I said in my first paragraph, a statistical fact is that people who live, work, and play in America's most polluted environments are commonly people of color and lower income communities. So, we can take the Port Said community of Barrio Logan as an example, who live just right outside the industrial shipyards of the Navy. And I know that there's an issue with a cement plant being built down there right now. And so it's definitely a neighborhood of concern. There, in lower income communities, well, we know that south of the 8, there are fewer parks, and that the tree canopy is much less dense, should we say, than in communities north of the Interstate 8. So yeah, just to make sure that resources are equally shared among all communities, and that all communities, I think we need to define what a quality community is and what makes a quality community, and make sure that all neighborhoods are then have access to the resources that make them a quality community.
So to address Jane's question, Ruth, do you see the policy implications as opportunities to advocate against, say, the placement of particular polluting buildings in neighborhoods? How do you see the policy rolling out based on your advocacy here?
Well, I haven't really thought that through, Lori, but yeah, I think, policy is where we can make the biggest impact. So I would see advocating for policy. I know there's talk of another landfill being built on the border, and maybe we need to look at that, and maybe there's a policy solution of how close things like landfills, or what kind of separation between industrial areas and neighborhoods there needs to be. I don't know. Is that what you mean?
Well, I was just wondering, I was going to circle back around to Jane and see if that answered her question. And if so, we can move to Beryl afterwards.
My main comment is that I think we have more to learn before we know more specifically what policy stances to take. We can take some general ones, but I think it is going to boil down to some budgetary decisions, as well as how you determine where the resources should go. So I think we have more to learn first, and then take more stands.
Isn't that what Ruth is saying, that we want to emphasize this issue so that we can learn more? And so we know what we're talking about?
I think so. And Ruth and I submitted this together too. So we did discuss this beforehand.
Oh, okay. It sounded like you thought we needed to learn more before we accept this.
No, I don't think so.
Sorry,
But
I
it's
misinterpreted.
part of the process.
Okay.
Okay, Beryl, do you want to unmute yourself and do you have a question about this particular issue?
I just have a couple of comments. One is that Kathleen McLeod has been very active in this area and should be involved. She lives in Southeast San Diego, and she is trying to, keep Southeast from getting more things that are unjust for them and to get more services for them.
Is she a league member or is she part of, do you have her contact information?
Yeah, she's a league member. She's been quite active in the league in the past.
Great.
And my other comment is that the Port District used to do a tour of the industrial area and Barrio Logan, and we could put together quite a program, I think, with leaders from Barrio Logan and the port talking about what they've done. I think they put a tunnel in for those trucks, for instance. So I think we can start doing tours pretty soon.
Got 3 other people that want to speak. Miles?
Yes. In addition, I'd like to comment on something that Lori said. In addition to testifying on individual projects, I think we could also use this to testify on pending community plan updates and zoning changes. For example, Barrio Logan is going through a community plan update right now, and this is one of those areas that is most impacted. So I would see doing that. And there's also the air quality control board, the air pollution control board of the county. We should be monitoring their regulatory changes as it impacts environmental justice as well. And we could use this for that too. So it's more than just taking a position on individual projects.
Okay, thank you. Peg Engel?
Yeah, I just wanted to add the element of our city council, or the San Diego City Council just approved what they're calling a climate equity fund. It's not a ton of money, but its purpose is to put more resources into communities that need more trees, that need quality of life enhancements. And monitoring that, I think, would be that's certainly something that I'm going to be interested in following to see how that works out, and it would be helpful to our monitoring process to have some local league study also.
Okay, good to know. Mary Hansen?
Yes, hi. I think this is a really timely issue, first of all. I commend you for the 2 of you for bringing it up. My question is just kind of procedural, whether or not you would see if we did this, are just piggybacking onto the state league position, or if you're proposing a study, or probably be an update to our own environmental positions. I think it warrants a study, but I just didn't know if that's what you had in mind.
I also wonder if any other leagues are studying it already, if we could join them or piggyback on what they're doing or learn from what they've already
Good.
learned.
Could use concurrence if we found another position we liked, and then take it from there and in terms of our programming. Yeah, it's always good to look for for concurrence.
Yeah,
Could we-
I think that's a good idea. I don't want to reinvent the wheel, if the wheel's already been invented. So I'd like to look into concurrence maybe with other California leagues and
It'd have to be California leagues, yeah.
And I
Okay,
think
great.
look at what the current California positions are and see where they cover this, and just learn more too.
Okay, well, we're going to hear about our other issues. Let's see, on the top here, I have the one from Jeannie Brown. Jeannie, do you mind speaking about this one?
No, not at all. Again, thank you for enlarging it. Yeah, the Criminal Justice Committee is finding that we're getting into a lot of the weeds about police, and I think that we need to know more about how the San Diego Police Department is organized, what its process is for doing a lot of its work, and the procedures. So what I'm suggesting is, whether it's a study or just an issue for emphasis, to better understand the San Diego Police Department. By the way, we could extend this to the Sheriff's Department as well, if we got people like Bill Loftus and Jennifer White might want to look into it as well. So we know that the league needs to know what the training is. With this new commission on police practices, we are going to be involved in this a lot. And I think that because the league needs to know what they're talking about. And when we discuss court proceedings, we have some lawyers, we have a retired judge who can help us understand that. But we don't have anybody in the police department, a retired police department, policeman, police officer, or really anyone in that thing. So I think we need to know more about that so that we can speak out on the topic and know what we're talking about. So there's also bills that are being passed, like the use of force and de-escalation training, etc. That again, I would hesitate the league speaking about it unless we understood how the department, this might even include the Police Officers Association, how that affects decisions made, etc. So again, it's just becoming more informed so we can speak out on issues and be sure of what we're talking about.
I don't see any hands up. Does anyone else want to talk about this? Beryl?
Is this would be a study with a position or just a committee work?
Well, what I noticed is that our police position right now, it was wonderful that we had it because we could speak out about Measure B. But when things are coming out about de-escalation and what aspects of police training and all that, we don't know that. And so I would approach it like a study, that it might take 2 years. I've talked to both Ruth and Joni Halpern, and they've both agreed. And I'm hoping that other people on our committee would be interested, or other people in the league and outside the league would like to even involve people from the police force. So yes, to answer your question, I'm looking at it as a study.
Okay, Margie Larson. Are you there, Margie?
Have you muted yourself, Margie?
Sorry, I think I was trying to click ask to unmute, but I accidentally clicked mute right when she had gotten it.
I'm sorry. Yes, I just wanted to volunteer. I want to be definitely on this committee,
Thank you.
especially.
Mary Hanson.
Oh, just to, since we already have a position, it would be technically probably an update to,
Yes.
yeah, just clarification. Okay.
Should I change that in this document?
Yes, would you please?
Okay.
Although we wouldn't, it would be kind of an addition to what we already have. I don't think what we have doesn't seem to me need to be changed, but we can add to it.
Okay.
Thank you.
I don't see any other hands up, in which case we will move on. Eliminating single family zoning. Beryl?
All
Would
right,
you
so
mind?
I have been reading about other places that are starting to do this. And with the league's position that we should be as racially equal throughout the city. And it seems to me we need to allow for more housing on properties that can handle it. There's a property down the street from me that probably could take 4 units on it. And, you know, there's really no reason not to allow that. If someone wants to build additional housing on that property, but right now it's not allowed. We have to have 1 unit on a piece of property, and that pertains to 70% of the city. So this would be a study to look at single family housing and single family zoning, and to look at other cities that are doing it.
Miles has his hand up.
Thanks. I needed to unmute myself. Actually, I think our upcoming housing action policy is going to address this. So I'd prefer to see what comes out of that and see if that adequately addresses the issue. And if it doesn't, perhaps we can expand on that in the housing policy, housing action policy. I think that would be the place where we would want to address this, because that is going to be our comprehensive housing position update.
Well, I
Okay,
still
Tamara Hurley.
I just wanted to throw out here that I'm sure you're aware it's a highly controversial issue.
right.
And I don't know, I mean, I have been in the league long enough to know how you handle exceedingly controversial issues, but I'm not sure that will truly pit suburbs against, single family versus, and I think most people in San Diego, if you actually asked any random person off the street, will say they would prefer to be in a single family house. So stating that that everything should be multifamily or multi-unit on a lot is a highly controversial thing. And I think it will polarize. It will make the league seem polarized. I'm just going to throw that out there.
Yeah, that's why I think we need to study it, not just add it to our action policy.
Okay, Jeannie.
Yes. I was going to comment with what Miles said when he said we are changing it. It was by we, did he mean the city council and or the housing federation, or who?
No, I meant we, the league. There's several, we've set up a team of people, 6 people who are drafting a housing action policy, which we anticipate will be brought to the Public Policy Committee in the next month or two, and then it would go to the board for adoption. And that would supplement, essentially update our existing housing position.
So was this done last year at program planning, or I'm just wondering how, it sounded like you were doing a study on the side.
No, this was authorized last year.
Okay.
Remember,
all right.
we've been working on this on both the transportation and housing position updates for a long, for a couple of years now.
Okay.
You've been at most of those public policy meetings.
Yeah.
Mary Hansen has her hand up.
I just kind of following up on what Jeannie was saying, we have a housing position. I was just not looking at it. There's nothing in the current housing position that would allow us to take, I can't remember who said it, it is a big, it would be a big step. It would be a big change. And it seems like it would require an update, not just of the Public Policy Committee, but of the membership. It would require an update, a study, we already have housing, so not a whole new thing, but an update to, if we wanted to add this to our housing position, that would include everyone. I mean, when we do an update, that it's the whole membership that gets involved. I just want to clarify that. I don't have a position one way or the other, because this is something I'd need to learn about, but it would need consensus. So I'm trying to get at, it would need that study consensus process before we would add something this big to our housing position, in my opinion anyway. Thank you.
That's what I was thinking is I don't remember it being voted on at the annual meeting last year. We may have discussed looking into it at program planning, public policy, but not for a study that would result in changing a position.
Right.
Miles, do you want to answer that?
Yeah, I think we're talking about two different things. We haven't discussed the concept of eliminating single family zoning, but we have approved moving forward with a housing action policy to update our housing position. It's, just as we just recently adopted a transportation action policy to update our transportation position, we're doing the same thing with housing right now, and it will be addressing this particular issue.
Okay, Margie Larson has her hand up.
I think it would be very good to study this, because we've seen, because of the racial justice things, that certain people have been put in ghettos and have apartments, but there's no housing. We need to change some of our zoning laws. I live in Mission Hills, which says, oh, this is a heritage. We don't want any apartments, but we need to. There's value in having mixed people, poor and rich. So we help each other. We see that we're not all wealthy people who live in separate zones and don't share or even know anybody that lives in an apartment. So I think a study would be very good to educate people.
Mary, did you want to speak again?
Well, I think we're having a little bit of a semantics issue here. The developing an action policy is as I've seen it happen, and all our positions are available for us to use at any time, whether we have an action policy on them or not. But that's kind of a matter of sometimes bringing two different positions together, transportation, housing, and so forth, and bringing them up to speed to address current issues. But an update is not something that just a committee can do. An update, if by technically in league jargon, means to change a position or add to a position. And something like single family zoning, unless it's something that's stated in a California position or a national position, then we can bring it in. But that's a big enough change. And I'm not either for or against it. That's a big enough change that we really need to be, we need to vote to do an update, to look into it. And every member study. I'm pretty, a little bit adamant about that, to put it.
Okay, Jeannie Brown.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I'd like to say that as we are speaking out about building out in the open spaces, I like to say that everybody loves open spaces, but nobody wants to increase density. And so if we want to speak out about not developing in open spaces, then we've got to reconsider increasing our density. And so I think that having a policy to look at this would be very important. And I shouldn't say policy, a position that we have looked to see what can San Diego do. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to have multi-level homes in the, in Rancho Santa Fe, et cetera. But I think changing from single family zoning to say R2 rather than R1 could be very useful. So that all needs to be looked at. The whole zoning, how we can change zoning to make sure that we do not go out into the open spaces, develop anymore.
Okay, I don't see any more hands up, so we're going to move on to our next issue,
Kim, I had my
which
hand up.
is immigration. Oh,
Kim?
Sorry.
Yeah.
I can only see if you use the Zoom function, raise hand.
Okay. Oh,
Go ahead.
Any rate, I feel like I need some clarification. To change a policy or do an update would require kind of every member vote involvement. But there is action we can do under program short of that. And that would be an issue for emphasis, develop an action policy. I just need some clarification of what these different terms mean, I guess. And also what, program for the year means. It doesn't necessarily mean updating positions. It could be, okay, we're going to focus on where we can take action, I believe. Isn't that correct? But then we'd call it an issue for emphasis rather than a study.
Lori, do you want to clarify that? We may have a slide.
Yeah, you can pull the slides up. So the issue for emphasis, I think you have the general idea, Jane. So, similar to what we did last month for the state, where we decide among ourselves what we think or where we want the state to direct its efforts. Part of what we're doing here today is figuring that out as well. Like what issues that are relevant to us and our members do our members want us as the league to pursue and move forward on in particular. We have positions that allow us to take action on a whole wealth of issues. And just like the state, they have a lot of positions that they can act on as well. But the purpose of that meeting for them and this meeting for us is to see in particular what issues are germane to our members and important to them. And so that we as leadership can direct some of our activities specifically to those. So, part of the submissions that Kim has received include words like starting a study, et cetera, and perhaps that is an outcome of some of this, but it's not necessarily required. Like if Ruthie wants our league to, fight for environmental justice. And we have a position that supports her advocacy. We can hear her and use that. And if the members vote on supporting Ruthie's advocacy on this particular issue for emphasis, we can move forward on it. And anytime an opportunity arises for us to advocate on behalf of that particular issue, we can do it. It's really just to direct our resources and our attention to particular aspects of what's going on in our particular community. So, the submissions are very sophisticated here with this league because, the people who submitted them are very knowledgeable about how the league works. So they're using terms like update a study or, update a position or create a study, et cetera. But I'm not sure that we necessarily have to get into that level of detail when we are merely discussing the direction we want to give the league. What do you think about that, Kim?
I just found this slide, so I'm going to put it up. So this just confirms that we can do community education, advocacy, study, update study, or a combination.
And that update study could be a San Diego position as well as a state position.
Right.
Yeah.
And could I say that rather than an issue for emphasis is how we want to learn more about it, sort of what Ruthie was talking about. But we use the term study or update a study if we can foresee something that the league should testify on, but we don't, our position doesn't fully cover that. And so we may need to learn more about it and be sure of what we're talking about so that we can speak on it.
Okay, we've got 2 hands up. Beryl is first.
I was thinking there's another possible place where we can densify housing, and that's these businesses and shops and stuff that have closed. And, I think there's going to be a lot of buildings up for rent kind of thing all over the county. So that's something that we can do with Miles's housing action, I think. But single family zoning changes is another ball of wax.
Okay, Tamara Hurley.
I was just going back to the slide that you're discussing right now with prioritization. Is the process to actually identify what part of this we would jump in, like we're looking to update a study, or we're looking to study an issue, or looking to advocate on an issue, or is it bringing the topic up in a more general form and then choosing which of these things make most sense based on where we are right now? I just don't know how this works. So can somebody explain?
Lori?
You and I are both waiting for the other one to step in. So, I guess technically an issue for emphasis is where our members vote for us as the league and the leadership of the league to direct our attention and resources. But it doesn't preclude other opportunities to look into our positions. And, you'll see as we go further into this discussion today, we are going to look at our positions, and some of that you'll see is kind of relevant, and it kind of connects right back to the discussions we're having here in this session. So, this portion of this meeting is really just to kind of generate ideas that our members at large and board members as well want to see us pursue and focus on going forward. So, different organizations in different states and different regions have specific issues that are particular to them. Perfect example, San Diego's a border city. And so we're going to have issues that are relevant to us and that we have to address on a more regular basis related to immigration, for example, than perhaps, a league in Northern California. So this is just an opportunity for our league members to look around and say, what's important here in San Diego, and what needs a particular attention, and where do I want my league to focus its attention and resources. So that's really the purpose of this portion. Now, as we go farther down later on, Kim's going to take us all through a discussion of our positions, and it's all very closely related, as I showed at the beginning of this meeting when I talked about how we advocate for issues and how we use positions to do that. So I think the reason we're getting bogged down here is because it's all part of the same whole. We can only advocate for issues that we have positions on. So if somebody's bringing forward an issue they want us to emphasize or direct our resources toward, we have to ensure that we have a position on that enables us to take that advocacy forward. So I think that's why we're kind of going around and around here. Does that answer your question, Tamara? Or Kim, would you like to add more?
I just, for clarity, part of my question, I think you did cover part of what I was asking, but my other part of my question was, the proposals seemed very specific. That was the conversation we were having before the slide got pulled up. Like, we want to do a study, or we want to do an update study, or like, are those the types of the proposals are supposed to be that specific, as into whether it's an update of a study or a community education? Like, is that part of the titling? I'm just looking at what other, if someone were to propose in the future, and I don't even know if you take ad hoc stuff at the meeting, but if one were to propose it, does one need to propose a specific bullet on this list, or are we just looking at, this is an issue that needs updating and we should study, advocate, blah, blah, blah on that particular topic?
The short answer to your question is no. A person does not need to submit a request for a study, etc., when they share an issue for emphasis that they'd like for us to move forward. So like, if you recall, I don't know if you were at our last meeting where we generated and discussed issues for emphasis for the state, those submissions were just advocacy for a position. So like, one of them, what were they, Kim? What did we end up voting on? And
Climate change, healthcare, and criminal justice.
Right. So like, the person who submitted the issue for emphasis regarding climate change, they just said, this is an important issue. This is why it's important. The league advocates for climate, X, Y, and Z. They didn't say that we need to do a study. They didn't say we need to update a position. They just said, look, this is a very important issue, and it's relevant to our organization, and it's relevant to our communities and the health of our whole country. And it was just an advocacy piece. It didn't specify who needs to do what, and the study needs to be done, et cetera, et cetera. So that's the long answer. The short answer is no, you don't have to submit issue for emphasis with the details of how you're going to conduct the study or update a position or any of that stuff.
Okay, Beryl and Mary both had their hands up. Let's go to Beryl first.
Okay, so by the time this gets to the annual meeting, first it's voted by our members, and then it goes to the board, and then it goes to the annual meeting. And by that time, I think we should have a quite specific idea of what we're voting on. Usually we ask for a scope for the study and that sort of thing. But what I wanted to point out is that last year we had a whole slew of little things to look at. And what happened was the board approved them all, and the annual meeting approved them all. And then those of us who are interested in them had to get hopping. But, we don't have to vote all of this in. We can select what we want to recommend to the board.
Yes. Mary?
Oh, I'm just trying to address Tamara's question. Issues for emphasis really focuses on the positions we already have, which are numerous. And I think we'll look at some of those later. And they're all there for us to use however we want to. And that's part of program planning. But the other part is whether or not we want to do a new study. And the only reason to do a new study is if there's something coming up like this zoning thing where we don't have a position to address it and we can't take action, we can't do advocacy unless we've come to consensus. It's this consensus word I'm not hearing quite enough in this whole thing, because it's, you know, the process is we have a program planning meeting and people propose things. And then if at the board recommends and at the annual meeting we approve to do a study, then if we come to consensus, then we have a new position and then we can do advocacy. So we only need to get involved in an update or a whole new study if we don't already have the positions to address it. The issues for emphasis are on those positions we already have. So we're kind of mixing them up a little bit too much. And I'm trying to separate that out for Tamara and other new members, that if somebody is proposing something new, we have to study it. I hope that makes sense to everyone. It's kind of a big deal to take on a study. And the unwritten rule is sort of, if you're proposing a study, then you're probably recommending yourself as the chairperson of that study committee. We try to avoid saying, League, why don't you guys study this? No, if you're bringing something forward, you're probably committed enough to it that you're going to be involved in leadership on that issue. Those of us who've done studies can say they're a lot of work. They're also very satisfying. You learn a lot by engaging in a league study, but we don't undertake it lightly because it's a lot of work.
Okay, I'm gonna move to the fourth and final issue, which was submitted by Beryl.
So I chair the Immigration and Deportation Committee for the League, and we in the past have had tours and presentations and discussions and so forth on immigration, but there's been nothing in the last year. So I'm just saying that we need to do an update on what's going on in immigration, probably at a Live with League meeting.
Any comments on that? Jane Andrews?
Yeah, this is another, I think, good example for clarification. Is this actually a study or?
No. This is just an issue for emphasis.
Okay.
It's an issue for education of our members and the public.
Okay, because the word study gets floated in and it's really more about educating our membership about this topic. It's
Right.
not, and sort of giving support to the Immigration Committee and Program Committee to do more on this, of what
Right.
they're doing. Okay.
Jeannie Brown?
Yeah, I would just like to support this idea that when we did a national immigration study, I think we had 5 luncheons on immigration. We did a lot of things. But again, with all the new members, I don't think we've done anything for quite a number of years on this. So I think it's due. It's about time, probably during the last 4 years when immigration changed so much, the policies, that it would be really important to see how things are back, what is back to the way it used to be, and what still needs work.
Can I add a comment? It's, this topic is a moving target with the Biden administration and, the change in emphasis. So it's something everybody's learning about. And I think it's very timely because of the new administration.
Okay, I don't see any other hands up. I'll give you just a moment if you want to raise your hand, otherwise we'll move back to the slides. Oh, this is the wrong one, sorry. Okay, so This is what the survey is going to look like that will be emailed out on Friday. So the top section would be like on the one we just talked about, an immigration and deportation forum. That was not the best example for this multiple choice question, but you will be able to, for the ones that are more of like a study type of thing, you'll be able to select, yes, I believe this should be an issue for emphasis and I will participate on a committee, or yes, I believe it should be, but I will not participate, or no.
So why does it
Um,
say, do you want to update existing positions?
That's what we're going to get to next. So good segue. Thanks for bringing that up. We are going to, let me get back to my script over here.
And Tamara has her hand raised, I believe.
Oh, go ahead, Tamara.
Sorry, trouble getting myself unmuted. So new to this whole process, didn't know that one had to submit paperwork in advance, but I don't know if it's possible to add a possible option for to this list of 4 at this time, or if it had to have been gone through some formal process pre-meeting.
Oh, we sent out an email a week or 2 ago asking people to email them, but I know that you and I had emailed also over the last couple of months.
Right.
So go ahead and say the issue that you want to propose.
So I was recommending that, having looked at the league position and having done advocacy and education for a long time, seeing that the league position is somewhat outdated. And I think there are areas, I'm just going to throw out some, some ideas of areas that the league could include in an updated position, I guess is what it's technically called. For example, the use of the personal computer in education, internet in education and child welfare, like, right now students are learning online during distance learning. There are social media impacts of the computer with cyberbullying by peers, online predation, especially in San Diego County. There's a lot of engaging young women into prostitution that happens over social media. There's student safety on campuses with regards to their emotional health, like there's even climate. Climate is one of the categories now, like school climate is one of the categories that has to be studied in what's called the LCAP, the Local Control and Accountability Plan. And, but we don't have the league doesn't have a position on school climate, gun violence, bomb threats, bullying on campus, student on student bullying, through the internet or in person. There's issues around course ability and equity that we don't address because we don't have an update on the career and technical education courses that are offered now on campuses, or the community college courses that are offered now on high school campuses, or some students have to leave campuses to go there, and what that means about equity. There's a lot, I'm getting a lot of questions right now from parents around how to advocate in education, understanding who sets the policy and the finance decisions and how those are set. They don't know where to complain if they have a problem. And then just more globally, there hasn't been an update to the position or the platform since the introduction of the local control funding formula, which was a different way of funding education that occurred in 2013. I think there's a lot of areas, I'm just throwing out some examples, a lot of areas in which education is and really important topic in the news right now, but also shows how little people really understand about it and how much advocacy and how much more in depth it is than where we are right now in the platform. So just throwing that out.
Any comments on that? I don't see any hands up.
I guess just for clarity, are you suggesting an issue for emphasis, or are you suggesting updating our education position?
Well, that's my question, because I don't really understand the process so much, but we have a position, but the position doesn't encompass some of these, broad areas like how the personal computer and the internet are. I mean,
Right.
Education in what I read is sort of as part of a social, childhood and emotional, social emotional issues, as well as educational issues. They seem to be under the same heading. So there are, how the internet, computers, and education all intersect would seem to fall into that category, but we don't have that. And I'm not saying that's the only issue. I'm just saying that it hasn't been updated in a long time. So there are things like this.
Right. It sounds like you're suggesting an updated, like to look at our position and to critically consider its relevance now and perhaps update it where it falls short. That's what I hear you saying. Does that sound like what you're
That
saying?
sounds like, yeah.
Okay, so we're about to move into the next section where we do look at our positions. And even if that's, I don't know if that one's included, but we can definitely add your input to that, and we can include that as an area for action for our ad hoc advisory group. So Kim's going to describe that whole process, and hopefully after that, Kim's discussion, it'll all make a little bit more sense for you, and then you will have some support to help move forward on that.
Thank you.
Beryl?
Well, education is a huge issue, and you've brought up about 15 different topics. So first of all, this needs to be clarified as to what positions we could use on some of those things. And then sort of narrow this updated study down. I'd be glad to work with you on it. I don't think it's going to be done by Friday, though. So I don't know how you want to proceed, Kim.
Okay, well, we can just include this in the next section. So I wanted to talk a little bit, because we're doing program planning on Zoom this year, we're not going to use this forum to wordsmith our positions. So we formed a working group to take down your suggestions and work with you after this meeting to address the concern that you may bring forward. Beryl has agreed to chair this working group, which will convene after March 19. This group will create a report of recommendations to the board and will go to a vote of the membership at a later date. Anyone who's interested in participating with Beryl's group will be able to indicate so on the survey that's going to be going out.
So who else is on the committee?
Just you so far.
Oh, thanks. Okay. Just wondering who this working group is.
Okay, I'm gonna go back to sharing my screen. Okay, so we already looked at half of the local positions last year, and these are the ones that we're going to consider this year. So that's public libraries, needs of the seriously mentally ill, campus justice and sexual assault, San Diego City urban development, county position on land use, parks, transportation, sewerage, San Diego Tijuana international relations, and agriculture in San Diego County.
Well, could we add education to it?
That's exactly what I was just going to say. We could just pull education, move it up a year, and add it to this list.
It was on the pages right before.
Right.
Yes.
It was done last year.
I timed my membership like a week too late. I found out after the fact.
And Jeannie, I sent you an email a couple days ago about the needs of the seriously mentally ill position, because I had a concern that it specifically refers to training police on dealing with them. And I wondered if these days it might be better to have a mental health crisis team.
Yeah, that's another one of those moving, moving bullets or something that we could include that in there in the study that I'm discussing, because so much of.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, so I could include that in the scope.
Okay, 1 second.
And I'm sorry, I don't remember seeing that email.
That's okay. So as for our next steps, look for an email tomorrow with a link to the video of this in case you want to watch it again, or for those people who weren't able to participate today, we're going to give them the next week to watch the video. And they'll also have access to those 4 documents that I showed with the suggested issues. And there will be a link to a survey where you can specify your recommended issues. I'll just go back to that. 1 sec. So the survey is going to look like this. So you'll be able to select yes or no for the 4 issues. Then the second white box here is where you can recommend any updates to existing positions. And then you can specify that you want to join Beryl's task force on updating the existing positions. Are there any questions?
All right, so the question about updating existing positions doesn't pertain to immigration.
Right.
Okay.
I need to reword that question.
Kim,
So,
I have a question.
so Beryl, is it okay if I just change that to yes, I believe there should be a Live with the League event on immigration? Is that what you wanted to say?
Yeah.
Or you and I can work together to
I don't need
to
to
reword it.
on this. No.
Do we even
But-
need to have that? I mean, that seems like a program decision. And program does work with each of the committees to generate topics for events. So would that even need to be voted on by the membership?
I don't think so.
I know, I feel like, Beryl, that should just be part of your committee's interaction with program, because program solicits committees for topics and ideas and help with events.
But they also look at so some of the issues for emphasis don't come from a committee. And so, so we do, that's part of it, but yeah, I agree that the committee could put this forward.
Miles?
Yes. Can you clarify exactly what Beryl's task force on updating existing positions would do? I'm not sure I understand that.
Yes. So just because we're on Zoom and we're not in person, it's just too hard to kind of go through each position and at a table together. So we wanted to take the suggestions from the members, and then Beryl could look at them and see if we maybe already have a position that covers that, or just sort of do the preliminary looking at it, and then send a report of recommendations to the board. Lori, help me out here.
Yeah, I mean, I think you defined it pretty accurately. So Beryl is going to essentially manage the process of collecting the feedback and assessing and reviewing it. So, you know, in real life, like when we were doing this in person, we would all just separate at different tables and we would all pull out our physical position books and we'd kind of run through the wording as a group. And then we would report out to the group at large what our committee or our little table's findings were on whatever position or positions we had reviewed. But that does not lend itself to this particular format and forum today. So that process is going to happen with Beryl's guidance. So for example, let's just take Tamara's interest in the education committee. She's already expressed an interest in updating that position. So she would work with Beryl and whoever else agrees to participate with Beryl to review the education position and suggest some terminology, word change, updating, etc., whatever her issues might include. And then Beryl would just be the repository for the collecting all of that feedback, and then she will present it to was it to you, Kim? What is the process of that? Either
To
to
the
Kim or
board.
the board for review. So that's the way that this process is working today. It's the virtual version of what we would have done in real life and have done in person in previous.
So that's got to be done by the April board meeting, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Jeannie's had her hand up.
And I'd just like to recommend for new members, I would recommend joining in on this, because in the past, when we've been able to meet together, going over just seeing all the different positions that the league has is really, really helps to understand how wide the league's interests are. And so, so I would recommend this for some of you new members that really want to understand the league better.
And just
Kim,
to clarify, people would be reading them on their own at home on their own time. And if they did see anything that they thought maybe needed to be changed or updated, they would bring that to Beryl's committee.
Okay.
I'd like,
Margie's had her hand up.
but I can't seem to get the hand raise.
Oh, you do have your hand up, but Margie was before you.
Oh, okay.
I was wondering, are we gonna, I would like to be able to look at the positions here, just to see how broad they are. But you're saying we have to do it somewhere else. I'm not too good at computers.
They're quite lengthy. There's like at least 15 pages. So,
well, could you put us into rooms that would study things?
we've only got 15 minutes left. So I
Oh,
don't
okay.
think we'd be able to get much useful work done.
Margie, do you have a local position book, or I can mail you one?
Not an updated one, because I haven't been on the board for a while.
Okay, I'll mail you one.
Well, I have some other information I'd like from you, but I'll try to call you on the phone.
Good.
Thanks, Margie. Go ahead, Eileen.
Okay, my question has to do with the revision of the Education Committee position, but also I think that the Education Committee, which is divided into two at this point, may need some restructuring at the end of this year, going into next year. There'll be a change of leadership in at least one part of it. There are Tamara's excellent suggestions about issues that we should consider in updating the position. There is the fact that because the secondary part of the group, the youth empowerment group, works directly with students, and our emphasis is getting students involved politically. You know, that's a wonderful goal, but it's also a very small group at this point. So there may be a way of combining all of those elements into one committee, and possibly under the leadership of one person. And I wondered if that's something that goes through the work that Beryl is going to do, or is that gonna, in other words, how, if we wanted to restructure the Education Committee, would we go about that? And is that part and parcel of the Program Planning Committee?
Excellent question. Tamara, do you want to speak?
Can I just, let me just answer one part of that. So this committee's or this meeting doesn't devise or assign committee chairs or create committees that
Right.
are board related, like you're saying, Eileen. That's part of the board's work. So that's not in the purview of this meeting here today, but some of the other things you mentioned are. So Kim, you can move forward. I just wanted to address that particular question.
Thank you. Tamara?
I just wanted to say do you pronounce it Eileen or Aileen? Eileen?
Eileen.
Yes, I'd love to have a offline conversation, because it sounds like this isn't really the forum for this. But what I was going to suggest, going back to what Margie had said, perhaps on your survey, under each bullet, you could have a link to where the relevant section of the league's position is on each topic, because it helps for people to get a frame of reference. And it exists online. So it's just, if it was just a matter, or just somewhere in the survey, a hyperlink so that people could just click on it and be able to read it, so that people like Margie, who wanted more information before they voted, would have access to it.
Yes, so the link to the PDF will be in that email, and it was in the previous email that invited people to this meeting.
Right. So I think that way, but if you embed it into the survey or as part of the survey, so that people can have easy access to it, and we don't run into this situation like Margie's question where, well, what is it now, right?
Okay, so I'll add the positions URL to the survey.
Okay, Beryl, I don't want you to send me another book on it. I'd rather be able to link onto it.
Okay.
I have so much paperwork.
Okay. So you'll be getting that email tomorrow, and then I will submit the recommendations at the April 13 board meeting, and members will vote on the proposed program at our annual meeting on June 19th.
So what are you going to do about this education thing?
Lori suggested that it go to your committee. Lori, do you still recommend that?
Yeah, I think that, so today's meeting has two parts. One is the issues for emphasis and voting on that, which has to happen, which has to be reviewed and put before the membership at the annual meeting. But also like the position update, that does not have to happen, in the next 2 or 3 weeks. Like we've said earlier, I mean, sometimes we do studies that last year. So the timing on that isn't as critical as the timing for the issues for emphasis. Again, like I said, because these two topics are so closely related, we've addressed them both in this meeting, but the results of the survey that need to be voted on at the annual meeting and brought to the board are the results of the issues for emphasis, not the education update or any of the positions discussion. So you'll know better than I, Beryl, but like I imagine you'll be working with Tamara and maybe me and maybe some other people on your working group, and you will review the position and get Tamara's feedback and maybe others as well who have other feedback on other positions. And then at some point, not by April, you will pull that together and submit those recommendations.
Okay, I'm sorry, I disagree.
Okay, well, you're running your committee, so you do it like you want it.
Well, no, but if we're going to make changes to the wording of the position, we can't change the concept of the position, but we could update the wording or something like that. That has to be voted on at the annual meeting and therefore has to go to the April board in the May newsletter.
It does have to be voted on, but it doesn't have to be voted on at this annual meeting. So for example, if somebody had said we need to do a study, I wouldn't expect them to get that study done and voted on at this annual meeting. If Tamara wants to review the education position and it takes her 4 months to pull it together and make her recommendations, and those recommendations go to the board, et cetera, that timing would suggest that we would have to vote on it at the next annual meeting. I mean, absolutely the members will vote on any changes. It's not going to be something that just kind of gets slipped under. All I'm trying to tell you is it doesn't have to happen like that next month. I don't know what Tamara's suggestions are going to be. Maybe they're just going to be manageable, and maybe you can pull it together and get it to the board and get it to the annual meeting in time for the members to vote on it this particular year.
Yeah, and I think Tamara is suggesting there are, definitely some of the things she talked about are holes in our education position anywhere. So we could pull those together fairly quickly and propose a third study, which could go into this survey. But
we've got 2 hands up. Are you finished, Beryl?
Yeah.
Okay, Mary Henson.
So going back to the beginning of the meeting, that environmental justice and policing and zoning, how are they connected either to Beryl's committee or to the survey? Because they would all, in my opinion, require an updated, a type of study. An update is a type of study because we already have positions on those, and that would have to be voted on. What's the mechanism? So is that should come out of this meeting or out of the survey, but I don't see those issues on the survey.
Oh yeah, I didn't show the whole survey because it was so long. It wouldn't fit
Oh,
on one
okay, it's a
screen.
long thing. I thought that was the whole survey. I'm going, wait,
No,
that's why I'm confused. Okay,
I can try to pull it up and show the whole thing.
that's all right. But Beryl's committee is basically taking everything from the survey and seeing what member preferences are in terms of any updates. Is that correct?
No.
No, okay. So who's doing that?
Well, that'll go to the annual meeting and then studies
Oh,
will start.
But the board has to have a,
Yeah, the
has
board
to-
goes to the board, the annual meeting, and then committees will be formed to do whatever
Okay.
studies are voted in.
so that's a separate thing. Okay.
So here's the full survey. I just want to show this real quickly so everyone understands. So you enter your
That's
email
helpful.
address and name, and then it says following are the proposed issues for emphasis. Please indicate whether each issue should be included in the 2021 to 2022 program. So eliminate single family zoning. You can choose yes, and I will participate. Yes, I will not participate, or no. Same for
So-
environmental justice.
So Kim, maybe link the explanation we wrote to that title, eliminate single family zoning, and then link what I wrote up about it.
Well, the email that has this survey link in it will have those links.
Okay.
I don't know if I can add them to a survey, but I could try.
Okay. Right.
I know there's one more that I need to add here, the criminal justice one that came in late last night. So the immigration one, I've changed it to just say, yes, I believe there should be a panel forum on these issues, or no. And then this is the part where we talk about Beryl's committee. If you want to recommend any updates to existing positions, enter them here. And then do you want to join the task force?
Okay, I
All
want
right,
to
we've
see,
got 3 hands up. Margie's first.
at the annual convention, the board of League of Women Voters is going to recommend the following program. And I have been at meetings in the past where somebody felt this, they didn't want to accept all those, and they came and lobbied for it at the convention, and sometimes it was passed. It takes 2/3 majority of the people at the convention. But if there was a topic that was vital that people wanted, that's what made the convention sort of exciting. So there's another opportunity there to lobby for something you might not, that the board doesn't vote on, but we could overrule it. So,
Are you thinking of the state convention or our local annual
no,
meeting?
local, but
Okay.
I go way back to the 60s. So I remember we adopted new
Yeah,
studies.
if the board recommends the study, then it takes a simple majority. If the board does not recommend the study, then it requires a 2/3.
Right. That's what I meant. There's lots of opportunities.
Tamara?
I think it's a slow process.
If you scroll down, do these say studies or are all issues for emphasis? I can't.
You know, I was using the word issues for emphasis, and I now that I've sat through this meeting, I'm understanding that maybe wasn't correct. Maybe it should have been study.
Yes.
Or update study.
Update on the study, yeah. Mhm. So when you do the policing one also.
Okay, so
Great.
like just say an update study.
Yeah.
So this is how it will look. Is that good? All right, Tamara, did you get a chance to speak?
No, I was waiting for you to do your edit. My question is, how does my floor discussion on education fit into this survey? Is that just something that's going to sit outside of this whole process, or?
Mary, I don't know if your what you want to say addresses that.
Well, you could, I don't know how easy it is to add that to this, but Margie and Beryl are right. It's the board the board takes what comes out of program planning and recommends or not updates or brand new studies, and then those are voted on at the annual meeting. And someone can bring up something new at the annual meeting. It rarely goes through because it takes a super majority, but it can happen. And I'm much happier now that this is changed to study, because issues for emphasis implies program we already have. Oh, we have a position on transportation. Let's emphasize that this next year in our programming and our advocacy. But all of these that are on this list are new and would require study. So I'm much happier, and this is much clearer. So good work. Okay.
All right, Tamara, I think you and I ought to work hard on this weekend and
So,
get it to
so
Kim.
this survey is going out when exactly? I mean, I just need to know. I mean, I can put something together. I just don't know what the timeline is.
Well, tomorrow I was going to send it out along
so
with the
it's not
video, so
included.
people can start watching it.
Okay.
All right, so Kim, what if you send out the video of the meeting and the background and say that, you know, we need a couple more days to put the rest of it together.
As
could
a
do that.
person who gets a lot of emails, I don't know that putting it in pieces is an effective way to send stuff out, because people will only click on a topic so many times. But I'm just wondering whether a bullet on education is worth including in this, or, I mean, I just don't know exactly how this, because nobody will vote on education if it's not in the survey. So we won't even know if anybody's willing to be participating on a committee or working on this. So that's why I'm asking, because otherwise then it's just me, because there's nobody saying, yes, I'll join your committee.
Right, and I need to clarify here that Tamara brought this to me a couple months ago before we planned how to do this meeting on Zoom. And I told her the way to bring this up was to come to the meeting and bring it up. So I don't know if maybe she didn't see the email last week, or she thought that my personal instructions to her maybe overrode the email, but the fact that she didn't submit it in writing is my mistake, not hers.
I didn't understand the process for sure. And to be honest with you, I've had a lot of fires burning lately, so I probably didn't click on the relevant email.
And
That's
Kim, I think that's fine. I've seen even at state conventions and national conventions, people bringing things up at the last minute and actually getting them through. So it's totally understandable, especially for a new member.
It would be nice if I mean, just as an aside, it would be nice if, because I think everybody here is learning from some people who've been around a long time, the difference between emphasis and study and the process and how things could, if that were online somewhere, because I went looking for it and I couldn't find it.
Oh, that was in the email as well. There
was a nice link that Kim.
Well, then I just missed the right email, I guess.
There was a lot of information on that.
Kim and I have been talking about this for a long time, months, about updating education, but I just did not understand the process. So
yeah, so there's this document called How Program Planning Works with the League. And it talks about, if a study is appropriate for the league to study, a committee of members.
Right, but
a position statement can be fashioned.
Right, but there's we're getting into the weeds here, but I just meant for someone like me, there isn't you need to create this document, you need to send it to this person by such and such a date, that kind of a process that isn't clear.
Yeah, you must have just not received this email that went out.
Or didn't click on it. It's possible it just got buried because I was getting an onslaught.
Because it says
HOA
right here,
problems.
If this is your first program planning meeting, please read How Program Planning Works.
I need that. Sorry.
Tamara, would you like a checklist? This is the procedure you would do? This.
Well, it might be in there, How Program Planning Works with the League, and how to, I mean, I think I have a much better idea now. I just, for the last year, I had no idea what to do.
So Kim, could you hold up your email till Tuesday?
I could work on it this weekend if you want to put it.
Yeah, and then
I mean, now that I look at this email, it doesn't actually say you will receive the video on Sunday. So yeah, we could push it back. It just says after the meeting, we'll send an email with the video.
Right. And then, maybe extend the deadline to getting the survey back. And meanwhile, Tamara and I will get busy.
Yes, I know what I'm doing
Okay.
this weekend.
So Tamara, you need to send me that list of concerns so that I can look for positions on them.
Right. Well, I have looked at the position too. So, but
Oh,
you and I
okay.
can work on this
All right,
offline.
good.
Okay, any other questions?
So
Otherwise,
just so I'm clarified, is education be part of this survey or not part of this survey?
It will be part.
Okay. All right.
We're going to work on it, get it
Okay.
through.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
All right, it's 11:32. Not bad, right? Thank you so much for joining us today for this important work. I hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Thanks, Kim.